and should be recording.
Yes, it
So
is.
welcome again. Before we get started, please open the chat. And if you would, tell us who you are and where you're calling in from. And okay. Anil and Nicholas is coming in from Miami, Florida. Welcome from South Florida. I'm here on the beautiful Space Coast of Florida. So again, if you could, the chat button is at the very bottom on the menu across the bottom.
Cocoa Beach, Cecilia. Okay.
Xiaowen is here also from the Space Coast.
Orlando.
From Florida.
Yes, nice to meet you again.
Yes.
Good to have you here.
Hello.
Looks like Cecilia from Toronto. And what did that say about Hong Kong? Did you catch that? Oh, based between Hong Kong and Canada. Ah, very nice. Good, good to have you here. Ning, good to have you here from Orlando as well. And Anila, where are you calling in from? Sorry.
She's in Miami.
Ah, she's the one from Miami. Okay. And we have Amy Roush is calling in. Yeah, you know Amy.
Hey, Amy.
So I think that's everyone who's reported in so far.
Great.
Good to see you.
Good to see you all as well. So the last thing I'm ready to jump in, and we're really looking forward to our presentation tonight, is a final step in the program. Moving to the right on the menu bar at the bottom of your screen, you should find it's a smiley face that's not smiling at the present, but from there you can virtually raise your hand, clap, give the thumbs up, and other reactions. So I just wanted to point that out. If you want to play with that a little bit, you're welcome to play with that before we Thank you, Xiaowen. Thank you, Yuko, as we go through the presentation. And with no further ado, I'm going to go ahead and introduce Dr. Neal Goodman, who is CEO of Global Dynamics, Inc., and an internationally recognized authority on cross-cultural competence, global mindset, diversity, and equity and inclusion. He's been a DEI leader for several decades, since 1963. His article, Best Practices in Unconscious Bias Training, is #1 on Google. Organizations and publications from around the globe seek his advice on creating globally inclusive organizations. He received SIETAR's 1995 Outstanding Senior Interculturalist Lifetime Achievement Award.
Seems like a lifetime ago.
Congratulations on that, Neal. And he's a professor emeritus at St. Peter's University and a global citizen. He's most proud of his 2 daughters and grandchildren, which I think he'll probably comment on a bit more when I turn it over to him. So please join me in giving a warm virtual welcome to Neal Goodman. So everyone, nice virtual welcome.
Thank you. Thank you for the applause. I really want to thank you, Curtis and Yuko, for all the work behind the scenes to make this happen. Also, although she couldn't make it tonight, I also wanted to thank Dana, who works with Global Dynamics, for helping with the slide deck, and my wife, Arda, who's also my partner in Global Dynamics. So I want to welcome you all because SIETAR is very important to me, and as far as I'm concerned, you're all part of the SIETAR family. So in some way, we're related that way. And I wanted to just I'll very quickly go over some of the background information, because I think the most important thing is that we talk to each other and learn from each other. But I wanted to say one thing about, we're talking about maintaining your practice. And some of this has to do with maintaining, but also how you get started in it. And certainly a lot of it has to do with serendipity, being in the right place, the right time. For whatever reason, I've been able to sense sort of what's going to happen a little bit into the future. So in '63, same week as the March on Washington, when Dr. King
Like mom?
uh,
Mom never developed.
So if I
there we
could,
go.
if I could have
Mom
everyone
had
please
perfectionism
put your computers on mute.
from the very beginning.
There
So
we go.
we just admitted another group in, Neil.
Good, good,
Give you
good.
a heads up. Thank you.
So excellent. So anyway, what I was going to say was that my opportunity was that starting with in '63, doing some civil rights work, that led me to really begin to see that my own biases, where they were, and again, I was leading youth groups at the time. I got to study overseas in 67, 68. I studied at Hebrew University in Jerusalem. The beauty there was I got to realize that bias and prejudice didn't begin and end on the shores of the United States, which is what I had thought. That was my bias. And clearly there was my goal was to understand, more about the Middle East. And fortunately, I got to meet a lot of both Israeli and Arab and some Armenian students that were studying there. So it was kind of a mini UN. In fact, when I came back from that year abroad, I went to work at the UN. A very idealistic person. So first I wanted to solve the race problem. And I couldn't do that. So then I went to the Middle East, tried to solve the Middle East problem, and did a lousy job of that. And so then I went to the UN, figured I'll solve world peace, and that didn't work out too well either. So here I am. So what happens when you're frustrated idealist? You become a professor, right? So I was a professor for about 35 years. Actually, I was invited back to the college that I graduated from, which I should mention was a Jesuit college. And they initially wanted me to go there as a student because they wanted to have more diversity in the student body. Little did I know that I'd wind up spending much of my life there. I mentioned that SIETAR is a very big part of my life. When I started as a professor, I learned about SIETAR. I went to the first conference back, I guess, around 1980. And during the 80s, I was on the executive board. That was when it was called SIETAR International. So it was a different organization, truly was global. Our meetings, the executive board, people flew in from all over the world to the meetings. It was fascinating. So I got to meet a lot of people, know a lot of people. As a researcher, I spent a year first at East West Center, which is a wonderful place to go to. It's in Hawaii. I always like places with palm trees. And so the East West Center was a think tank. And at the time I was there, we had people like Gerhard Hofstadter and others, great interculturalists going through. And so it was a great opportunity. It was kind of like a Disney World for interculturalists. And I came back from the East West Center. I started Global Dynamics with my wife with the idea that, if we could just make a little bit of money, since she was a guidance counselor, she could work from home. We had 2 little girls. And I thought, well, that would be a nice thing. And of course, we started something we thought would be pretty small, but it kind of grew sort of organically. And we've been very fortunate that way. And so we're still running Global Dynamics since 1984. And as Curtis mentioned, I'm really very proud of my 2 daughters who are both very, very accomplished in male-dominated businesses. And I say that because we really tried hard to raise them in a way that they would not ever feel intimidated by anybody just because of gender or other factors. And the only rule I had when I raised them was that, and those of you who have young children, I'd suggest this as well, and that is, my only rule was that they had to study overseas while they were in college. They had to spend a year overseas. And both my daughters did do that. And I think it was very important for them. All right, so let's continue. I want to get into the program now. So that's a little bit about me and Global Dynamics and stuff. So we can move on to the next slide, I think. Who's moving it? Curtis?
Yes,
Go.
Curtis is doing. Is it working, Curtis?
I don't see it.
Can you see the new slide now?
Nope.
No.
Let me
Okay.
pull it
Now
up
we
again.
see everybody.
Hi, everybody.
Hi, everyone.
Hey, Philip's done. Hi, Philip. Interesting groups of people here. Some are clients, some are really good friends. Okay. All right, so that's good. Yeah, stay with that. Let's see. So what we're going to do is we're going to talk about what steps to take, what steps to avoid. We're going to learn from each other, network, and develop and apply some new ideas. My hope, of course, is that whatever we're going to do today is going to leave some sort of indelible, mark on you that you'll be able to use for your own practice and to go forward. I'll say for sure that as far as I'm concerned, this is a wonderful time to be an interculturalist. It's a wonderful time to be a diversity specialist because you have all this phenomenal information and ease of communication at your disposal. And so that makes it a really kind of a unique time. Realize that when I started doing this, there was no internet and no such thing. But I watched that whole evolution because we were very actively involved in AT&T's globalization process. And I actually attended the very, very first video conference call that was ever done. It was done through AT&T at AT&T headquarters. And so, again, I'll say one thing about that as sort of again, I talk about serendipity a lot and sort of the intangibles. And one of the intangibles to maintain your business is to be in the right place at the right time. And how do you know how to do that? It's not always easy. I was fortunate that I was in New Jersey. High tech was in New Jersey. Pharmaceuticals was in New Jersey. And so once I got started, the organization sort of took off kind of by itself. But again, my point is that if you want to be in government, go to school, in DC. If you want to be involved in, whatever it is, try to be where you are. Obviously, people living in Seattle, have certain advantages people in San Francisco do. So where you live plays a role, I think, also in terms of, your practice and where you practice and how you practice. Of course, today being a virtual world that we live in, it really doesn't matter where you live. But I do think it matters where you go to school. Anyway, so let's go to the poll. We have a couple of polls right in the very beginning. And the first poll is, let's see, can we get that? There we go. Okay, how long you been in the intercultural field? And so when you started, now there's 1 to 5. If it's none, just don't answer if you haven't started yet. But 1 to 5, 5 to 10, 10 to 20, 20 or more. So, and let's see what we got. Okay, you can close I think you can close it now. Let's see what we have. Submit your results. Okay, so wow, nice spread. So about a quarter of the people 1 to 5 years, 40% 5 to 10, so some seasoned people, 10 to 20, 15, and 20 plus years. That's a quarter of the people. So we have a lot of people here with a great deal of experience. And so I don't know why I'm doing this, but I want the rest of you to be chiming in. And some of you I work with, some of you are people that I've been part of the Global Dynamics team. And I want to especially put a shout out to Phil Sheldon, who's on there. Phil was one of the very, very first Americans to go to China and Japan for IBM. And he's a phenomenal person. He no longer does the cross-cultural training very much, but he was a member of our team very early on and really one of those real gems to work with. let's go to the next slide because the next slide is a second poll, very quick one. So I think we have to go the other direction. Okay, next slide would be the next poll. Okay, so we've done that one. Let's go to the next one. Nope, go back one. Okay, so if the poll doesn't come up, let's at least see what people think. In terms of your current, your cross-cultural diversity practice, have you found that in 2020 was your work up? Oh, here we go, up 20% or more, or is it even with is in the past? Was it down 10 to 20%? Was it down more than 20%, or is it not applicable? Just to see what the last year has been like for us, because I don't think we've lived through a year like that in all my years of doing this work. The pandemic has obviously had a big impact on a lot of things. So put in your results and submit them, and let's see what we have. Okay, so a few fortunate people are up 8%, up 20% or more, 15% even, down 10 to 20, and then down 20% or more, and then not applicable. So 30%. Again, I point that out because typically if we had asked this in a good year, and I do anticipate that 2021, 22, and going forward will be much better years. Typically people would be saying it up 10%, 20%, 50%, whatever. But the pandemic really put a real sort of a damper on all of the cross-cultural work. Obviously, anyone who was doing expatriate work, that kind of disappeared. We just got our first expat assignment yesterday to train an expat. Fortunately, we do a lot of work in Asia, so we've been doing work in Korea, China, and other parts of Asia because they're working. Let's go to the next slide if you can. I was going to. I don't know how many people we have, Curtis, to make this happen. My goal was to see if we could get some people to, in room 1, talk about how do we get work, room 2, how do we maintain our work, and room 3, why do we lose our work? And so can we do that? Can you put people to 3 rooms? We'd have about 4 minutes to discuss it. I'd like one person to sort of take the notes and then report back. Okay, great. Okay, so here we picked up some more people too.
We are back.
All right, so let's go to room 1. Would somebody like to report out from room 1?
Yes, so we were in room 1. Who would like to share in our group? I can do it, but if somebody, you want to do it, Emily?
Yeah, what I noticed about our group is that very few people are working full-time in intercultural business. Some of us have jobs elsewhere. I'm starting my own business, so I have no clients yet. My technique for getting them is having lots and lots of conversations within my network. And people have been very kind to suggest groups that might subcontract to me. I'm a coach, primarily coach, trainer, speaker. So I'm looking to get on companies that will then, find my client for me, essentially. We had one PhD student, one government worker, one coach. Yuko, you didn't actually share your piece. And one person working for reload companies and creating games to facilitate cross-cultural learning. So quite a mix.
Okay, and any particular insights about how we get our work?
Not strictly.
The tricks of the trade. I'll share some later, but you didn't get any.
Yeah, so
What about room
thing is
2?
only
Go ahead.
networking. Just networking really is what I would
Network?
say. Yeah, that's
Yep.
my
Yep.
personal response.
Okay. Room 2, how do we do there?
We were in room 2. Unfortunately, we only got through 2 people, but I'll share what we can. The 2 people that came on to share, one works for somebody, so they're okay. The other one, Chris, he works for somebody, but he also has something on the side. So they're, from what he shared, I mean, we all know it's very timely, you know, the environment for inclusion and cross-cultural work. So they're trying to develop a program, and hopefully that there'll be more attraction on that program. And maybe I can share a little bit about, you know, myself as well. And
Sure.
networking is definitely the way to go, but LinkedIn, it's a very powerful platform. So make sure you have the keywords on there. And I think, I can't remember how Neal and I connected, you know, some years back, joining alliances. A lot of companies, you know, Neal's, for example, they kind of recruit, well, not recruit, but gather an international body of trainers or coaches in different locales. So when they have clients, they will reach out to those, you know, facilitators, you know, to work on a project. So as I'm on Canadian soil, after 19 years abroad in Asia, I do the same. I try to reach out to people. And fortunately, I think there's a lot of, there's a big market in the US and Canada as well, but US especially. So reaching out to people who has businesses, and it starts with a conversation. So take the time to have one-on-one conversations, and then things will happen, you know, in the virtual space. And also, for me, I'm hoping to actually get my work into the higher education, because I think the younger the people are to be educated, the better the world will be. So hopefully that is my 2021 wish. Yeah, so there we go.
Good. Does anyone want to talk about what we discussed in room 3, or anyone want to take the lead? Okay, Sylvia.
Sure. So, you know, we pointed out that obviously the pandemic is what led us to lose a lot of our work. Primarily, you know, the international travel came to a halt. The ensuing economic situation led a lot of organizations to cut their training budgets. So that was a big impact. And, you know, we also pointed out that some of that training has moved on to a virtual environment, which has maybe opened up some new possibilities, because we are able to then do the work more broadly across geographic areas. As far as work that might have been impacted is the diversity and inclusion work, which increased as well. However, some regulations in the US and some policies that were put in place had cut that type of work in the public sector, in the government sector. And that's been just recently, you know, changed, so that there is probably some movement happening there soon. So I don't know if I covered pretty much everything we discussed.
Yeah. Yeah, especially with the, you know, the loss of work because of expats, you know, not going anywhere. And I guess in general, the whole, look, in the last 5 years, there's been an attack on globalization. And it's, I think, had some negative impact on a lot of the cross-cultural work that we do. But I think that's gonna, the pendulum swings all the time. So I've been here long enough to know that what goes around comes around. Let's go to the next slide. I'm gonna just do this one really quick, Curtis, just to make people aware of. I imagine most of you have seen the SWOT analysis already. If you haven't seen it, I'd recommend you, you know, Google it later, and you know, we're not going to spend a lot of time on it. But what I was trying to say is you should try to do a SWOT analysis almost at least once a year to see, if you look at it going across horizontally, you can see you have the internal factors that can affect you. So there's a positives and negatives. So internally, what can happen? What are your strengths? What are your weaknesses? What do I need to learn? What are my competitors? What do I have? What's my competitive advantage? But this is internal. These are things I have control over. Okay, what capabilities do you have? What are your strengths? And therefore, how's that going to affect what you do next? The external factors, again, the O is the opportunities. What trends may positively impact you? What opportunities are available to you? And then the threats. So obviously, threats. The pandemic is a great example because nobody anticipated it. A year ago, nobody was talking about it. And it meant that if you didn't have really solid financial support and your business went down, you may be out of business, as a lot of companies are. But I do believe in trends. I've always looked at trends and been very fortunate in that I think I'm able to see things that may happen a little bit ahead of time and then try to jump into that spot. So we were doing programs. I mean, I was obviously doing diversity work since the 60s, but we were doing programs on working from home for Citibank about 15 years ago, teaching managers how to work from home, working virtually. So this was nothing new for us. And of course, the globalization is really interesting because I don't know why I had this feeling, but I would go around to companies in the 1980s, talk about 81, 82, 83, and talk about needing to understand cross-cultural. And the biggest companies in the world, you're crazy. What do we need to know about China or India? I mean, those people are all so poor, they can't buy our stuff. And China's communist, and Russia, forget it, and Brazil. Nobody wants to talk about culture. No, unfortunately, but the Japanese came around, and the Japanese started competing against Americans, and Americans suddenly realized, my God, they're doing it just as good, if not better, and cheaper. We're in trouble. And so, I mean, for the US anyway, the globalization, at least in the corporate world, was driven largely by the Japanese competition to the United States. So again, looking at the trends, what's going to happen now, what's going to happen next, it's very, very hard to say. But I have to thank the Japanese for our business, and the French too, because they tend to give Americans a lot of problems. So any countries that tend to give Americans a lot of confusion, just misunderstanding, that's good for us, right? To help understand. Of course, more lately it's been China as well. But basically we've done programs for Swiss Germans working with Swiss French. I mean, we taught Canadians how to work with Americans and vice versa. So the differences are all out there. It's just a matter of seeing what's going to be important. Can we go to the next slide? Because that's sort of a core of what I wanted to talk about. And again, timing is perfect. So this is from that article. I don't know how many of you had a chance to read the article, but it's out there. And again, if you don't have it, you can write to me. I'll send it to you. But this is an article I wrote as a reflection piece. And actually, I was thinking about when I was thinking about doing a presentation for SIETAR, and I called the accidental trainer because I never expected to be a cross-cultural trainer. There was no such thing. I mean, when I went to school, I didn't really know what I wanted to be or what I would do. But again, things just fell into place, if you would. And so these are some of my lessons learned. And the first one is to own, what you do. Take pride in it, whether it's your company or you're working for somebody else or working in a school. Be outstanding in it. Own it. Show how much satisfaction you get for it. Show the people you're working with how much you love what it is you do. And people are going to see that. They're going to appreciate it, and they're going to come back to you because they're going to live off of your enthusiasm. They're going to see right away just how committed you are. And this rubs off, I think, very much on people when they see somebody that's very committed to what they're doing. The second thing I put down is ask for constructive criticism. And if not asking for constructive criticism, I would at least say, think about what people are telling you. You know, ask for if you can, ask for it. Try to get advice. I mean, as somebody who, you know, I tend to be kind of a perfectionist. When somebody tells me something's wrong, I'm really upset, and I spend all my time worrying about what I can do better. But yeah, I learned early on that people out there are going to really help you if you listen to them. So as I said, my very first time doing training, corporate training, was for AT&T, the biggest company in the world at the time. And you know, at the end of the first training session, I went over to the head of AT&T School of Learning, and the guy has a PhD in learning. And again, AT&T at the time was the big gorilla. It was the wealthiest company in the world. And he said, look, make it fun, you know, make it more fun. I was an academic, you know, but now I realize I shouldn't probably hire too many professors, because they're like me, they would lecture all the time. So make it fun. So I got to meet Tiagi, and, you know, he would teach me some tricks about, you know, making things interactive, making them fun, realizing that the learning is inside of the room. Okay, you're not the source of the learning. They know it. You just got to sort of generate that. And part of that then goes to number 3, which is look at the potential in all your participants. I in the article it says, you know, be humble and be vulnerable. Really, you know, when I go into a training program, I know that there's going to be at least one person in that room. It's hard to do this virtually, obviously, but there's going to be one person in the room who's so smart, who knows so much, and who could be one of the smartest people I've ever met. And my job is to find that person. I'm not there to teach them. They're going to be teaching me. And so it's always a lifetime of looking for who those people are, seeking them out, and then, you know, again, be humble. You're not the center of the world, which is, again, goes to number 4. You don't know all the answers. I mean, look, we were the primary training organization for the American Hospital Association. I don't know anything about hospitals. Some of you I've worked with, I know, through the healthcare industry. I mean, almost every major pharmaceutical is a client of ours. I don't know anything about medicine. I don't know about medical devices. We were the main trainer for telecommunications industry. I don't know anything about engineering or telecommunications, yet we were asked to observe the trade shows for the major telecommunications industry in Geneva, trade shows that they were spending $2 billion on. And all of a sudden we were like the Nielsen ratings of telling them who are the good exhibitors or not. We had 41 clients by 2000. Then the bubble burst. But I'm not a specialist in marketing. I've never taken a marketing class in my life. And yet here I am, we're telling the biggest companies in the world how they should market themselves at an international trade show. We taught the NBA how to go global. I don't know much about basketball. And of course, David Stern back then didn't care whether he knew anything about basketball. His smart people were all lawyers and from Harvard and so on. You definitely can get all the handouts. That's not a problem. The slides will be available too. So the 5th rule I have is seek out those who are different from you. You don't learn anything from people who are just like you. In all of my experiences, I've always learned the most from people who are different from me, whether that's religion or economic status. You know, I grew up in a relatively, you know, working class, hard scrabble community. And so I had kind of biases against rich people and so on. Some of them are okay, you know, but I had my own biases. So we have to reach out to people who are different. I had no experience with the military, but because of the Vietnam War, my attitude towards the military wasn't very positive. Yet my closest friend in Israel was a fellow who had just left Annapolis, and he was training to become an Air Force a pilot in the Navy, and attacking the people in Vietnam. He got out of the Navy, but he still was very militaristic, and yet we were able to learn a lot from each other, even though we were completely opposites when it came to politics. And then a lot of you mentioned number 6. You're only as strong as your network. It's so true. Those of you who are on the call now, I mean, some of you, I can see Jesse now there. Can't see everybody, but like I mentioned Phil Sheldon. Phil, I don't even remember how we met, but he's been a partner with me in work that we did for such a long time. In fact, I remember Sun Microsystems rang me up one time and asked me to come out to San Francisco to the headquarters. And I had not even really heard much about them. They were just brand new. And I flew out there. I had my suit and tie on the way I would show up at J&J. And the people told me right away, get rid of your suit, get rid of your tie. They don't, this doesn't go well here in our corporate culture. But after we had bagels and breakfast on a Saturday, we got one of the biggest contracts we had gotten, and they didn't even know who I was. I didn't know who they were, but that was good old days of Silicon Valley. And Phil was instrumental in helping take these courses into Asia, for example. So we had Asia specialists, we had Latin American specialists, we had European specialists. But your network is your key. Your network is, without the network, we don't exist. Truly, we don't exist. Everything that we've ever done is based on who our network is. And so we've been really blessed in having a very strong network all over the globe. And many of the people who are part of Global Dynamics have been very close friends. And I'll say that not only the people we work with are very close friends, but so are our clients. And many of the clients that we have, I mean, really, pleased that somebody from a J&J group that I had taught many years ago is on the call. But we treat our clients truly like gold, because I mean, our job is to make them succeed and help them look good and so on. And so if I can't make them succeed, then I'm a failure. But I also think it's important that you bring your clients in with you to talk about issues that they're having, that you're having. When I do presentations, a lot of times I'll ask one of my clients to be a co-facilitator, or I've written articles with the president of the American Hospital Association diversity area. I didn't have to write it with him, but by doing that, it both gave me some authenticity, but it also gave him some popularity, gave him some respect. So I've done that a lot, made presentations with clients. So really treat them as gold. One client this week called me up and agreed that even though they canceled the number of my classes at the end of the year, they were still going to pay for a lot of it because of the nature of the relationship that we've had. So I say, be generous with your clients. Give them more than you possibly can. Anything you can give them, they'll be appreciative. And they'll show that back to you. I should say to you that we don't have a single marketing person in Global Dynamics. We've never had a sales development person, business development person. Our sales force are our clients. They move from one place to the other. And as 1990, huh? I think, okay. Oh, okay. Phil's telling me where it was, New Jersey International Roundtable. Yeah, and Phil's also I guess he's still the owner and purveyor of the largest gay travel agency in the world. He Travel. He was doing this way before this became something that was more fashionable. So Our clients, I have one client that I knew from J&J, and she's brought us into Nevada's. She's brought us into Hilton Hotels. She's brought us into Allied Signal. Same person. Everywhere she goes, she brings us. So the fact that people are moving around is a good thing, because they can plant seeds for you all over the place. So these are sort of my core recommendations. And again, I'll be happy to share the article with you. Let's go to the next slide, because I want to just go over a few other tips. So to maintain and sustain your practice, there's a lot of things today that are available. I just put a few of them up here. Those of you who are not aware of the Center for Global Inclusion, look it up. They're phenomenal. They have great resources. Alan Richter is involved in that. He has a tremendous instrument for diversity, gives it away for free. All the people in the center are excellent. Intercultural Insights kind of died off a few years ago, and now it's just been resuscitated. All interculturalists, all sharing ideas, best practices. I would certainly join them. I get a lot of information from Economist Magazine. I've been reading that for I don't know, for a long time. I'm always coming up with different ideas that are interculturally related. Of course, now there are TED Talks, podcasts, etc. I run every evening, and I always put on a podcast and learn something. Some of my favorite from cross-cultural and DI are on NPR. So probably you have some others you'd recommend: Rough Translation, Code Switch, Invisibilia, Hidden Brain. Those are probably for me, those like four go-to podcasts. And of course, there's all the other SIETAR groups. There's SIETAR Europa and Asia and so on, South America. So, join those groups, get to know the people. It's again a great way to keep building and sustaining yourself. And let's go to the next slide, because it's the second part of the sustaining part. Okay, so these are some more things you can do. Reach out to your former clients, ask them if they could refer you, if they have something new to do. Somebody mentioned LinkedIn already. Yes, LinkedIn is a great way to meet people and to find people that are interesting to you. Right now, I live on LinkedIn practically, because I love that kind of networking. And so, you can find people all over the world. I recommend you publish articles, post them, distribute them, let people know about them, YouTubes, send out newsletters, do TED Talks, anything where you get some visibility. Phil said that we met at this conference, and when I was starting off, I would give all these free speeches everywhere I'd go, anywhere. I just do it for free, just to be seen, just to start building a network. Now that I'm sort of towards the end of my career, I'm doing things for free again. But now it's a chance to give back. So that's sort of where I'm at. Let's go to the next slide for a second. I want to make sure we have time for some Q&A. So I was just wondering what adjustments, and we'll just take 2 or 3 of these. What adjustments have you made in 2020 to maintain or build your practice? Or what are you planning to do? Anyone like to share something that they did to adjust to 2020, which was a year that did not have good sight? Everyone's waiting for 2020 to be a great year, and what a terrible year it was. Anyone have an idea? Yes, Michelle.
So I currently am working for the government, and a lot of the guidances came out during the time where we were getting ready to start pushing out an agenda for DE&I. So that really put a bump in it. So instead of focusing on DE&I, we worked on the principles as far as establishing communication and emotional intelligence and other things that help build that culture of inclusion. So it's not necessarily like thinking about diversity in the sense, but it's more about how do we communicate with each other? How do we understand what that person is saying? And, and sometimes how do we not take that so personal, or let them know, hey, that's a little too far. Like, you need to just relax.
Mm-hmm. That's the core. I mean, the essence of what we do is about empathy. It's about emotional intelligence. All these things that are now becoming hot words. You know, everyone's saying be an empathetic leader, be a conscientious capitalist, and so on. Yeah, we know that's the nature of us as human beings is to try to learn about each other, share ideas, build upon each other for the greater good. And so you can take, even though there was somebody putting in rules saying you can't do diversity training, which was absurd. If you look at each one of the statements in that government policy, a lot of them you could just work around them because you say, okay, well, we're not going to. We don't do anything to make people feel superior or inferior. We're talking about how you communicate with each other so you can understand each other. There are many ways of getting around some of these things. I'm so glad though that that's been lifted and that the future is going to be much better. Anyone else have an idea that they want to share? Inclusive leadership, yeah, absolutely. Servant leadership, and believe me, this is happening all over the world. I'm with groups. In fact, just yesterday I was speaking with the head of diversity for the Tata group in India. Oh, Patricia, you got your hand up. Hey, Sunshine.
I've been good if I could enter. Yes, hi, Sunshine. How are you?
We can't hear you.
Can you hear me?
Speak up a little more.
Can you hear me?
Yes, Patricia.
Okay, wonderful. So hi, Sunshine. This is absolutely true. Global dynamics, people that that Neal and Vada work with are friends. So thank you for the friendship. 15 years now. But what I want to share with everyone is in 2020, my hospitality and industry business went kaput. And for me, it was the opportunity to say to those hotels that closed, do not let your employees sit around and get depressed. Let's continue the training. Let's continue the coaching. And their answer was, we have no money. And I said, we'll talk about that later. Let's continue. And being generous with those clients really, really carried, because now that they're starting again, by reinventing themselves and creating different packages for different clienteles, who do you think they're going to call to continue their training and coaching?
Absolutely.
So that's an example of what I did in 2020.
Yeah, that's sort of why I love you, because that's the attitude you have to have. Your clients are really kind of like the people who are working together with you. As I said, they're for me, they're Salesforce. I can't exist without them. Okay, that's a great example. Patricia Anila says it. Anila's down here in South Florida as well. So maybe she'll come to a SIETAR meeting when we start having them again. Let's go to the next slide for a second. Oh, more virtual sessions. Okay. Paying forward. Yep, absolutely. Okay, so here's a couple of, I'm just using these as examples. So some of the things that we move towards and are moving towards. One is DEI. I mean, we were always a DEI company. It's one of our three main areas of specialization, but we really moved into it big time, especially, this was even before the murder of George Floyd and all the other, horrible things, because again, it's in our bloodstream, the DEI work. And so, but some of the new things we started was helping companies develop mentoring programs, having critical conversations on racism and inequity. We did that for clients, created those conversations. A lot of unconscious bias training, working with a partner to develop a diversity demographic survey and assessment, so companies can see where they are in terms of their diversity journey, where they need to go. So a lot more interest in diversity, obviously. And of course, that is not ever going to go away in our lifetimes, because racism is so deeply entrenched in our society. but there'll always be a need for people to build relationships across differences. We moved all of our training to virtual platforms, except for the ones in Asia that we're currently now doing in person, but almost everything is virtual. We also created some new courses based on client feedback and requests. So, and I always listen to what clients are telling me. And so one was saying, oh, we need something around wellness. So we developed a course on mindfulness. Another client said, well, you know, our people really don't know how to give instructions to their coworkers. This was in a medical device company. They said the engineers, they don't really know how to share information. So we created a facilitation skills course for them. One of our clients asked for help teaching managers how to become coaches. And we worked closely with Maya, who might have signed up for the class, Mayu Chan, who we worked together, and she delivered scores of our manager as coach course. But now, because again of client needs, we're doing one of our big clients has just merged with another client. Actually, they purchased another client. That's always a good opportunity. And so because of that, they then wanted us to do team integration programs, teams made from the two different companies, which were very different. And then we've worked with social styles inventory to help, again, teams understand each other's style. And we've doing something that I always been asked to do, but I'm beginning to take it more seriously now. Probably in 2021, we're going to offer our first master class, one in cross-cultural and one in D&I. I'm doing master classes right now and trying to master classes, but I hope to be able to start offering some of those probably in the spring of 2021. And then a little bit later than that, start doing some certification programs because I really think that there's a lot of people with a very, their understanding of the topic is very wide but very thin, and it doesn't go deep. And I would rather have people have a much deeper understanding of DI and cross-cultural competence. So they're going to be rigorous programs, but I'm hoping that we can do that too. But again, because I can take my network of people and have them do the other training, I can focus on doing some of these things. So those are some of the our ideas, and I hope maybe some of you can use some of those. Let's go to the next slide because we're getting near the end, and I want to make sure. So here's some things I would say. Be persistent. Please believe in yourself. Work with all of us. We're all here for you. I'm always happy to answer any questions you have, send you articles, whatever. I have a lot of things I'll be happy to send to you. So I think with that, let's go to the Q&A. I know we're a little bit over time, but if people have questions, if we can't get to them tonight, definitely send them to me. But are there any questions? You can raise your hands. I'll put them in chat. Maybe there've been questions along the way. I haven't noticed. So I'll let Yuko take care of that, or Curtis.
We had a couple of questions come in before the class, and one you've already addressed with certifications and how to stay relevant. There was a question about professional development for ongoing business needs.
Yeah,
like your program, I guess, Neal.
Yeah. Again, the professional development, you've got to think about where it is you want to go. Well, what is it that needs to be developed? With all the information out there today, I mean, I'm happy to guide anybody, but with LinkedIn Learning, with so much available, you can almost, be self-directed in that area, but I'm happy to, help anybody with that. I think for the most part, the professional development, as soon as the pandemic is over and people start having face-to-face conferences again, I have always found these conferences, whether it's SIETAR, ASTD, SHRM, all of them, again, and people saying SIETAR Florida, but yeah, Facebook, LinkedIn, Instagram, there's so many ways of learning about new ideas, and just find some people who are willing to share. To me, that's critical, because you don't have to know everything. You just have to know people who can help you. Okay, and Curtis mentioned ISPI. So that's for instruction. What is that, Curtis?
Yes, it's for people who are deeply into designing training.
Okay, yeah. I mean, the shame of it is that back in the 80s, 90s, SIETAR had its own institute, Summer Institute in Washington, D.C. It was run out of Georgetown University. It was phenomenal. I mean, they brought the best thinkers and scholars, but also practitioners and people who did simulations. And it was a week long. It was intense. My whole life was changed because of it. So that was, great. Then, of course, it moved to SICK up in Portland. Now, of course, SICK is closed. So there's got, obviously, that somebody who's looking for a new job, maybe become, hopefully some university is going to stop it. Somebody could start running these institutes again for professional development. I'm a little too old to do that now, but I think there's a great need for that, where people can go and learn about interculturalism and build that. Okay, Cecilia, Tri-State SIETAR is also very active. Yeah, New Jersey, New York. Good. But again, I'd like to see these bigger conferences around intercultural. Okay, other questions, challenges, issues. Staying plugged into SIETAR, Brazil, Italy, Florida, USA. Yeah, they're all of these SIETARs, they're phenomenal. And again, they're like-minded people that are trying to do what you're trying to do, just doing it somewhere else. SIETAR Europa, they have phenomenal conferences. Again, SIETAR USA used to join conferences with SIETAR in Europe and Asia. So maybe we'll be able to start doing those again, having a global SIETAR meeting. Yeah. Any questions about SIETAR, ask Patricia, she knows. And if she doesn't know, ask Sandy. But they're both wealth of knowledge. Okay. So any final thoughts, any questions? Because I could go on for hours and hours here. But I want to make sure that your needs have been met, and that when it comes to maintaining and sustaining your practice, your interest in this, you've learned a couple of things that will help. There's no easy answers. I can say that. Yeah, Patricia says, I don't know the answer, but I can help you find it. That's sort of how I feel. I do believe in serendipity. I do believe in people and building on relationships. The relationships are about everything. At the end of the day, it's all about your relationships and doing good for people, and they do good for you. It's very simple approach. I've never taken a business class in my life, and I don't think I need to. It's all about relationships. If you can know how to do that, you can sell, you can teach, you can learn. So good. I know we're out of time, and I try to be on time. So thank you all very much. I'm here for you. Write to me. You have my email address there. So definitely, I'll be happy to send you any information. I'm here to be of service. And again, I stand on the shoulders of a lot of people, so I can help boost you up a little bit. Be happy to do that. So have a great evening. Today's a very historical day. And hopefully it's upward and onward from here on. And our world will be a little bit more open to learning about each other instead of being afraid of each other. So thank you all. Have a wonderful evening. Thank you, Yuko, especially, and Curtis, and everyone joining in. It's been great.
Thank you so much, Neal. And thanks everybody for staying on to have Neal field a few questions. Thanks everybody. Good night.
Thank you.